Hello everybody, welcome to 2C TV, your global news channel. The Conservative and Unionist Party in Britain is getting to the end of its life. Their party leader, Kemi Badenoch, is now lashing out at the media, demanding them to be nicer to her instead of criticising her leadership. And she's now considering to use the broadcasting regulator, Ofcom, to do a crackdown on her critics. Before we start, you only have a couple of days left, ladies and gentlemen, to take advantage of our Christmas offer, 50% off 2C TV Plus membership, our independent platform, which is uncensored and unfiltered. Use the promo code Christmas50 by going on 2c.tv. Check it out for yourselves. Don't forget to use the discounts. Now, let's talk about this mess of a leader, Kemi Badenoch. She is absolutely fascinating. She claimed that by becoming a Tory leader, she is bringing back reason into the Conservative Party. She's going to be a grown-up in the room. And seems like, at best, the Tory Party is a bit vanilla and boring. At worst, her style of leadership is becoming a little bit dictatorial, considering that we already have a Prime Minister from a different party, Labour, who is acting dictatorial. The official opposition, on behalf of His Majesty, seems to be also a little bit of an emotional snowflake. She doesn't like to be criticised. So she had decided to lash out as she had a meeting. She demanded to meet with the CEO of GB News, one of the mainstream media broadcasters in Britain, Angelo Franglopoulos, who decided to go to Westminster to meet with Kemi. And she has said that GB News should not be a haven for my critics. Really? We already have this style of political leadership from the liberal left-wingers. You know, whether you're talking about Trudeau or Starmer or Biden or all these guys, they don't like to be criticized. They want the media to be the propaganda arm of their government. That was never supposed to be the role of journalism, whether you're talking about print journalism, press, or broadcast journalism when it comes to the TV or radio. The whole point of journalism is to hold the power to account. Now, you can have your own leanings. Journalism and broadcasting is not always supposed to be about being impartial. You can be objective. You can have, people can know your leanings. For example, everybody knows that The Guardian is a liberal left wing. And everyone's fine with it. Well, at least we know where you stand with them. You don't have to buy The Guardian newspaper. If you want to, you can. Or you can just get The Telegraph or anybody else. At least there's a level of transparency. But when it comes to broadcast media, they try to, on the one hand, they try to tell you they are impartial. That's not the case. But some media outlets have become the propaganda arm for the establishment. CNN is basically the US Democrats' TV channel. That's what it is. And we have the same problem in the UK. Now, Kemi wants GB News to be the Tory-friendly media channel, especially if she were to become Prime Minister. Now, I don't think Kemi could become Prime Minister. If she does, then it will be something is wrong with the country. But that's what she's at right now, because she doesn't like that Nigel Farage gets a lot of airtime on GB News, and she says, you guys have to be a little bit nicer to me. And that's why she demanded to meet with Angelo, the CEO of GB News. And, they had a friendly conversation, according to both sides, but she did demand to be getting more airtime on GB News. And there was a conversation between the two where Kemi Badenoch had mentioned the use of the broadcasting regulator, Ofcom, which we already know Ofcom is basically a bunch of communists, to do a crackdown on her critics. That, to make sure we actually have Ofcom double checking, monitoring TV channels like GB News to make sure they don't really just give airtime to Reform UK. Now, GB News have also been quite critical of Reform UK at times. It doesn't have to be everything about Nigel Farage's own show. There are other shows on GB News that have also criticised a reform. They've been quite friendly towards the Tories. I'm not really sure why Kemi is so focused and distracted in terms of attacking reform rather than focusing on building her party as the opposition to actually attack Keir Starmer's Labour government. It's a little bit childish. It's funny because she started this anyway, and she was going after Reform UK for having allegedly fake numbers of memberships. Obviously, that those claims were debunked. Now that Reform UK is hitting back, Kemi Badenoch's Conservative Party are saying, why is it that Nigel Farage is so obsessed with our party leader Kemi? I wonder why. You guys are randomly attacking technically a smaller party in terms of parliamentary seats, but Reform UK is now the second largest party in the country when it comes to the level of support and membership, and also in terms of political donations as well, financial backers. So this thing is really weird. So Nigel Farage decided to respond by saying Kemi talks about competition being a good thing, but now we see that she wants me taken off the air. Maybe her first priority should be to go on GB News today and apologize for calling me dishonest. Her 2 days of silence is deafening. And of course, let's not forget, Nigel Farage is still considering to take legal action against Kemi Badenoch for those false claims. He did say a couple of days, so I'm guessing by Monday, tomorrow, he's going to have to decide whether he's actually going to be suing Kemi or not. People have their own opinions on whether Reform and Nigel should actually make the effort of taking this to the next level, because they will corner her, essentially, because if she apologizes, she's done. If she doesn't apologize and she gets sued, she's done. Or maybe Reform UK should just take the moral high ground and say, we've already exposed you, you're embarrassing, nobody cares about you, just move on, right? So we have that battle at the same time anyway. But Kemi Badenoch doesn't seem to be too concerned about LBC, the radio station, for having giving platform to people like Angela Rayner or David Lammy or other Labour politicians. She seems to be fine with that, but she's not fine with GB News giving Nigel Farage his own show, which he already had the show before he was a Reform UK party leader. Now, all this is getting to a point where the Tories don't know what to do because they are losing members left, right and centre. 150,000 plus members now for Reform UK. The official public latest figures from the Conservative membership is they are on 131,000. Now, I don't think 131,000 membership numbers for Tories is correct because a lot of them have defected to Reform. The Tories are not being transparent about the number of members that they have. We do know that a huge number of Tory local association chairmen, these are the local leaders with expertise, they have defected. Party donors have defected. They've gone to Reform. So the Tories have lost the status. They've lost membership. They've lost the money. They've lost the infrastructure. They've lost the MPs, the talent. So what is the point of the Conservative and Unionist Party at this point? The only thing they have left is just their logo and their name. They no longer have that credibility. So Kemi could just go around and shout about media being nice, but Reform UK is still on the rise. So they are going to be having their party conferences, and every single one of them is selling out. So Reform UK's Southeast Party Conference is sold out. Reform UK's Northwest Conference is also sold out. East England sold out. East Midlands sold out. And of course, they're going to have more party conferences, regional conferences over the next few months, while the Tories can't even have a simple leadership support meeting for Kemi Badenoch. So this is the whole point. Now, that is the other thing to mention, because Reform UK have also decided to hit back at Kemi officially, saying Kemi believes that the Tory party has a God-given right to exist. This level of self-entitlement shows itself in her arrogance and bitterness. The Tory brand is dying under her leadership, and that is also absolutely correct. A lot of people thought that Rishi Sunak was going to be the one to completely destroy the Tory party. He did a good job at destroying the Tory party, but actually Kemi seems to be her own worst enemy, and she's completing the job that Rishi Sunak started. And to be fair, you can make an argument that the Tory party was already going down, but not to this level. Boris Johnson, when he betrayed his own supporters by not fulfilling his promises that he made in 2019, that wasn't really the death of the Tory party. No, that was just a crisis. And all political parties have that. You know, you have a leader who comes and says certain things, he doesn't do it. You just pick a better leader. The Tories decided not to pick a better leader, mostly because they don't really have that much talent left. You have divisive figures. If you pick someone from the liberal left, I don't know, like Tom Tugendhat, the right of the Tory party won't be happy. If you pick someone like Jacob Rees-Mogg, the liberal side won't be happy. So they've had those figures, but they don't really have anybody that could actually unite the Tory party. And I do believe that the Conservative Party has become too much of a broad church. It's good to be a big tent, big church, but you need to still have a set of values that everybody should actually agree with. And right now, they don't seem to be. So the death of the Tory party is still happening. Nina, super chat, thank you, Nina, saying her true colour has now been shown. It's just the beginning. I do believe everyone's focusing on the downfall of Keir Starmer, and let's not forget he's the priority because he's the Prime Minister. But it's also the death of the Uni Party because Labour don't really know where they stand. A lot of the actual left-wing support have now left the Labour Party. They're going to independent candidates and the Green Party and all the others. But the other issue that we have is the Tories are getting to a point where they thought until now that Kemi could bring it back after Rishi Sunak. I did warn people, don't get excited. Just because Kemi believes that a woman is a woman does not mean that she's conservative, does not mean she's a nationalist, and it does not mean that she cares about the country. Mike says, sorry, reporting late. I apologize that I'm reporting late. I am on holiday, and so it does take a few hours until I get things ready. Sorry to Mike and everybody who gets disappointed if I'm a little bit late to these reports. So Kemi is thin-skinned, is she? A little bit, yeah. Who dare criticize a minority ethnic woman? Wow. She scores 3 points on that pyramid. Yes, absolutely. Spot on. Let's go back to some more super chats. We've got Cynthia. Thank you very much, Cynthia, saying there is no longer any mainstream media that gives a fair and balanced reporting. Exactly why we need independent news outlets such as yours. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think fair and balance is the best way to kind of want to media to be, because everybody has a bias, humans and entities. So you can't pretend to be impartial. You can aim to be objective. That's what we try to do as a team on 2CTV, because my opinions on the world, on economic policies, on social policies, but I tend to try to be fair. If, I don't know, a politician, a political figure, or a party that I like, if they say something stupid, I will call them out. Yes, and some of the supporters who watch this channel, they get offended. A lot of people are also snowflakes, even on the political right. If some of the supporters of the Conservative Party or Reform UK, if I criticize their party, they get offended because they are snowflakes, but mostly on the left as well. But that's about being fair. If someone does something stupid, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you like them or not. You cannot go with blind faith. You have to criticize them. But that's not really the case with the mainstream media. Another super chat. Thank you, AY, for your support. Feel free to leave a comment as well if you do super chat. Kevin says, stop France fishing in British waters until they take the illegals back. You would require a actual strong leadership in government to do that, and we don't really have that. Dorothy also says the same thing. Kemi's showing her true colors. It did not take long. I know. I thought she would have a bit of a honeymoon period, but no. To be fair, most of it is not really her fault, because Reform UK is actually doing better now, so everybody's focusing on her, on Reform rather than her. What is this? Kenny says, I honestly find it hard to believe that these a-holes are still in the position that they are. It is... We're still seeing the beginning of the end for the wider establishment type of people. So whether you're talking about the mainstream media, whether you're talking about the Uni Party in Britain, the red and blue, so it's just the beginning of the end. So they still will exist for a while, but just about. Even the BBC, they're just about clinging on. Mike says, how is Switzerland? Surprisingly not too cold. Could have been worse, but it's lovely. Tomorrow we will be going to do some skiing, and hopefully I'll survive. And I've already had my cheese fondue and my Swiss chocolate. I will be back in the United Kingdom extremely fat. So get ready for that. It's already getting there. I can feel it. I can feel the fat coming. Lynn's random stuff says, I think both the Tories and Labour parties are hopping mad because Farage and his Reform Party have passed them both in the leadership stakes. That's also the other point, yeah. I'm not a fan of Farage, but it's one in the eye for them both. Exactly. See, Lynn's random stuff is being fair and balanced. That's the best way to see it. So the other thing that we haven't actually mentioned, and I didn't really focus on, is the latest opinion polls when it comes to party leaders, how popular or unpopular they are, their approval rating. Nigel Farage is actually leading now. I mean, you might think that's not surprising because if you are not a left-winger, you would say, well, obviously, Keir Starmer's terrible, Kemi is boring and dictatorial now. But let's not forget the majority, the big chunk of the country, don't really follow politics, and they still probably think Reform UK and Nigel Farage are a little bit controversial. So it is impressive when you see opinion polls, and I know there's still opinion polls, pinch of salt, that they actually go with Nigel as an alternative option, confidently, not as a protest vote, but confidently. Alex says, are you in Switzerland, Maya? Yes, I am, in fact, in Switzerland. We do have big plans, obviously. So I'm going to be traveling around a lot, a fair amount over the next few weeks and months. Because the 2CTV expansion, where we are going more global, we're going to be introducing the new, what I call the global 2C agents. But these are our global reporters and correspondents from each region and country and continent. So I'll be going around a lot. So I'll be going to Warsaw in Poland next week in a few days, on the 3rd of January. And we'll be having a meeting with Visegrad 24 guys, Stefan Thompson and the others. So this is about obviously expanding this whole operation and doing more collaboration with international brands as well, who believe in freedom and conservatism, and of course nationalism for all countries, for all people around the world, so that to make sure that we completely destroy any sort of threats coming back from the mainstream media. The competition to CTV at this point, we want to make sure it's basically BBC World News Service and Sky News International, which, by the way, I only discovered today that Sky News International actually exists. I didn't know. But in the hotel, we get access to BBC World Service, which always existed. And I've recently discovered apparently Sky News also have an international one, which actually is slightly better than BBC. I checked them both out. Sky News International is pretty all right. They do good reports. BBC World Service is still a little bit meh. Used to be good. So we want to, we're taking it to the next level. So that's why we have to focus on the international side as well. Patriots and nationalists from all around the world need support, and they need to support each other. And that's what we are here to do. Poland Christmas market was peaceful and beautiful. Oh yeah, I can't wait to get there. Obviously, I'm getting there in January after Christmas, but it's still going to be absolutely lovely. John says, are you in Davos? Yes, I've taken control of the World Economic Forum. No, I'm not in Davos. We are in the Alps. Somewhere in the Alps. You can't find me. Super chat time. Danny says, this is a language I can somewhat understand. What, English or... It's a little bit out of context. Sorry, Danny. I don't know what... Hopefully you mean English. J.R. Williams says, why is Farage so against mass deportations? It's not against it fundamentally. He's too afraid to implement it. He says it's politically, for now, he says it's impossible, right? And I criticize him for that because you need to be... I think Nigel misunderstands what we mean by mass deportations. I genuinely think, because I think if I see him next, I will raise this, because even personally, I think he believes... Because there are different levels of mass deportations in any country. There is the Spanish version a few centuries ago, where they kicked out anybody who was Islamic. There is the basic version, which is just get rid of illegals, anybody who's illegal, anybody who's been rejected and living here illegally or anywhere, and foreign criminals. I think most people in Britain, I mean, there's still some people who want to take it to the next level. I think most people, the beginning, the common sense would say, can we at least start with just illegal migrants those who've been rejected and foreign criminals. And I think that's not that controversial, because recently at Reform UK, the party, not Nigel himself, have already indicated that they want to do something like that, right? But when Nigel was asked, I think he believes when you talk about mass deportations, you're talking about, I don't know, deporting anybody who's brown, right? I'm not sure. But his problem is, he says, it's politically impossible or difficult, right? Challenging. But you have to start winning the argument first. You have to actually talk about it first. Nigel did the same with leaving the European Union. For decades, for about 2 decades, he was standing alone on his own, shouting about leaving the EU. Yes, leaving the EU was also politically impossible at the time. But he talked about it. The more he talked about it, the more normalized it became. And eventually, we left the European Union. So if he thinks mass deportations are politically impossible now, he needs to start talking about it, normalize it, explain what it is, and then eventually we can do it. So I'm just doing benefit of the doubt, because I criticized him quite harshly at the time, a couple of months ago, and even his supporters were quite upset. They were heartbroken a little bit because I criticized the Nigel. But I'm trying to be fair, because I think maybe he misunderstands what people mean by mass deportations. There will be difficulties, bureaucratic difficulties, absolutely. But that just requires us to be more radical in terms of leaving the ECHR and even other international obligations when it comes to the UN Refugee Convention, the European Migration Pact, and all that nonsense. Dave says Nigel fully understands what we mean about mass deportation. So I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing Dave has spoken to Nigel, but because if Nigel simply says deporting illegal migrants is politically impossible, then he's still wrong. So I go back to my original criticism that when I did it a couple of months ago, that I said, what is he talking about? It makes no sense. You can. It will be difficult, but not impossible. So that's why I said today, the only explanation would be that he probably misunderstood. But I'm guessing Dave has spoken to Nigel, so he knows what Nigel actually thinks inside, rather than what he said. Thank you, Dave. James says mass deportations are necessary, but it will be messy. Absolutely. But I do go back to what I said, because it depends what level of mass deportations are you talking about. Because if you're just talking about deport anyone who's brown, well, that will be very messy. And also could be unfair on some people who just happen to be mixed race. But there is an issue. Also, a lot of people from Essex are brown, but they're not actually brown. They just get tan a lot. They're orange. No disrespect to lovely people from Essex, some of you, not all of you, and nothing wrong with being orange either. It will be messy, but if you clarify what you mean as a government policy, it can be done. I mean, France and Germany, to a point, they have already started a level of it, a beginning, tiny bit of it, and it still counts. Mass deportation simply means deporting multiple people at once. That's all it means. Ted Andy says, without mass deportation of all illegals, we are not putting Britain first. Not putting Brits first equals no vote for Farage. That is true. Well, no, to be fair, he's still getting the mainstream centre-right votes anyway. So he's still banking on that side. It's not impossible by any means. Yeah, nothing is impossible. I think the word impossible should not be used. It's very pessimistic. You can say difficult. You can say messy, challenging. Impossible. Nothing is impossible. I mean, in terms of political decisions and political policies. So I don't think you should say impossible. You can say very hard. You can say I'm scared. You can say I don't want to be politically incorrect. No, this is mass deportation for illegal immigrants only. Although I would take it to the next level. I would also include foreign criminals. I don't really want foreign criminals to be in our prisons paid for by the taxpayers. So I would also get rid of foreign criminals, as well as the illegal migrants and anybody who has been rejected. J.R. Williams says, I don't think he has the stones for what's required. And Cynthia says, if he wants a good deportation plan, he should consult Thomas Homan. Yes. Oh, yeah, of course, Thomas Homan is going to be hopefully he will be a very good border czar, essentially. He'll be in charge of the border, the southern border mostly as well. The crisis in the US. Aaron says, question, what's with all the plane crashes lately? Yeah, probably best not to raise this question with me right now, Aaron, because I'm in Switzerland and we will be flying back to London soon. And I don't really want to think about that because it's getting a little bit weird. We also had another incident in Oslo in Norway. We had another incident an hour ago, 2 hours ago in UAE. But that was more of a smaller aircraft. And obviously we had Canada, we had the one in South Korea. Yeah, so not really sure. And obviously the Azerbaijani airline as well, a few days ago. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, some of them, at least one or two of them were definitely Boeing. So you know what's happening with Boeing. Anyway, there is only a couple of days left now. If you want to take advantage of our Christmas offer to you, join 2CTV Plus. Join the tribe. Get half price for the annual subscription. Use the promo code Christmas50. A lot of people have been trying to use the monthly membership to use the promo code. And the code is not working because it's only for annual and new membership, obviously not if you're an existing member. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.